Welcome to Recalculating America. Like its award-winning book, Recalculating is dedicated to small business in America and has been named the best small business book in the Independent Press Awards competition. Each Recalculating program is dedicated to helping small business leaders add profits through efficient growth. During every Recalculating program, experts will give listeners useful information about starting or growing their small business. Your hosts are Don Mazzella and Dan Perkins. Don Mazzella is the editor-in-chief of the Small Business Digest. Dan Perkins is a registered investment advisor with 43 years' experience in managing money. He specializes in helping small business owners make their money work as hard as they do.
Dan Perkins here, and I'm your co-host along with Don Mazzella of Recalculating, the radio program that has evolved out of the award-winning book dedicated to helping small business leaders increase their profits. We draw our name from the book named the best small business publication for 2017 by the Independent Press. This book features contributions of more than 100 presidents, experts, and leaders who offer you ways to grow your small business. Don?
Dan, just before we went on the air, we managed to get this report from the Suzzane Clark, who's Executive VP of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and all about their new small business survey. And in particular, Dan, you're going to really like what they had to say. We also have on our board from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Suzzane Clark.
Good morning.
Yes. How are you? Suzzane, you're EVP of the Small Business for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. You have a new study that you've released today. Can you tell us about it and what's going on?
I'd be delighted. And I'm here today with James Reid at MetLife, and we are really excited to be launching the first results of an ongoing quarterly index of 1,000 small business owners who revealed themselves to be quite optimistic about the economy. 60% of them said they foresaw revenue growth, and nearly a third said that they could see hiring soon.
Keep going. The floor is yours. Just tell us all you can that you want to from the study, and then we know you're on a short leash. Come and join us. Thank you.
Okay. Sure. Great. So some of the other facts and data that came out of the study is that Susan mentioned a high level of optimism about growth. The survey asked 10 questions in 3 different areas around what small business owners are feeling about their small business operations, what they were thinking about and the challenges they had in the small business environment, and then also about expectations. And really the 2 concerns that they ran into with a high level of optimism across the board otherwise was really how they were able to potentially deal with the economy, and that they were over 30% of the small business owners were actually working harder and putting in more hours they did in previous years. But overall, as Susan mentioned, a real high level of optimism across the country for the small business owners.
And I think if we heard a concern, it had to do with the national economy. We've been stalled at less than 3% growth for 10 years, and that uncertainty has been hard on small business owners. And so, they create 2/3 of new jobs in this country, so finding out that they're optimistic about their business and about their regional economy, we think is quite hopeful. We did see a little bit of concern finding qualified workers, and we think that's a little bit of an underreported story. We hear a lot about unemployment, but not about this problem of jobs without the qualified, well-trained, skilled workers to fill them. We have a number of small business summits across the country to try to help them coming up. We're looking forward to people turning out and us doing everything that we can to help them take the risks and create the jobs the country needs.
Yes. So as Susan mentioned, this is the first step out of the gate, so to speak. So with MetLife and the U.S. Chamber working together, this is the first survey that we're going to be launching. We're scheduled to launch quarterly surveys over the next few years, in addition to the Small Business Summit that Susan mentioned. And the great thing is that with the 2 organizations, we're committed to really understand what the small business owners' challenges are. what their expectations are and what their needs, and it's our jobs working together and try to help them meet those needs and make sure that the small business environment and economy continues to grow.
One final question: did you hear any negatives from the survey?
Well, I do think we heard about kind of national economic uncertainty. We heard about a lack of qualified workers, and so I think those were concerns. But I have to stress that we saw 60+% of job creators being optimistic and feeling favorable about the economy and about the opportunity in front of them. So I think they have concerns and they have things they need help with, but overall, quite favorable outlook.
And the information for your listeners, they can get the actual index and survey if they go to sbindex.us. And as Susan mentioned, we're going to have a number of small business summits. We have 5 scheduled this year in Dallas, Phoenix, Tampa, and I'm drawing a blank on our last one.
Dallas, Phoenix, Tampa,
Minneapolis, as well as our Dream Big Awards that are scheduled to be in Washington, D.C. over September 9th to 11th.
Real great. Thank you so much for coming on such short notice and giving us what I think is good news. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Well, interesting things going on there. We welcome right now Tom Alexander, who is the CEO of PK4 Media. He's a 14-time award winner entrepreneur. He's going to discuss with us the growing omni-channel advertising trend and the launch of PK4's new solution to skip this ad problem. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us, first of all, give us a web address where people can contact you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Absolutely. And people can reach out to me at tom@pk4media.com. You can find more information on our website at pk4media.com. So PK4 is really focused on the omni-channel media solution. Most of digital media now is very much focused on each channel, each specific target vertical, meaning when you're looking at desktop ads, you're looking at social media, if you're looking at mobile specifically, whether that's display media or video. What PK4 has done is actually incorporated 8 different channels. There's no one else that can do that, actually. We're focused on online, so desktop, mobile, tablet, and then connected TV, video on demand, in mall placements, in theater, and digital out of home. So we're able to combine all these pieces and then understand where users are engaging with brands and small businesses, where they're being the most effective, and what we're calling attribution modeling. So understanding which channels are driving conversions and sales for our clients.
So Tom, if I can try and get that through my thick skull, it sounds like what you're saying is that you assess, these are my words, Tom, you assess the opportunity at any given moment in time as to which distribution channel might be the most effective for a particular customer in getting their message out.
Absolutely. And that way our system, our platform will actually optimize the campaign towards those channels that are working the best. But what we found is that it's not just, the goal isn't just to drive towards that one best performing channel. It's really how all of the channels work together and that end up providing a much more increased lift. And Gartner's come out with a study that has shown that if you as an advertiser use 4 or more channels as opposed to a single channel or 1 or 2 channels at a time for a campaign, you'll see 300% plus more effectiveness out of your campaigns and your budgets. So having all those channels work together is really the key.
Tom, I've been in the financial service business for 40-some years, and I'm a registered investment advisor. I manage money, but in addition to that, when I worked on Wall Street, I was in charge of sales distribution. And I learned very quickly that it would take on average 7 contacts to convert a prospect into a customer. How many times does a person have to see a message, depending upon any media, before it clicks and they decide to do something?
Absolutely. We've seen a bit of a range in how many exposures result in a conversion. So what we try to do is drive users through what's called a purchase funnel. And it's very similar to what you were just describing. It's usually with that first touch point. So we're really driving awareness for the product or service, then going down to consideration and favorability, and then what's called purchase intent. So some kind of action online that will help indicate users are interested in buying that product or service. We've seen anywhere from 6 to 9 exposures across all channels is really where that sweet spot is. And because this is all based off of digital media and digital distribution, we can track the engagement and responses in real time. So we know when the users had enough and they've actually gone through and finally purchased something. We know to cap them off so that they don't see any more ads. The idea is, I'm sure you and all of your listeners have seen how there's certain ads that you will see constantly over and over again. Even though you've gone through and you've bought a hotel room in New York City, all of a sudden you're getting ads constantly for more hotel rooms, even though you've already purchased. What our system is able to do is understand that action has occurred and cap that user so that they don't get overexposed and then create negative brand imaging or brand association with that advertiser.
Look, can I ask you a very specific question?
Absolutely.
I'm going to. I want to ask you a question about a process that I noticed. As I said, being a money manager, have to keep apprised of what's going on in the markets and the economy and interest rates and everything else. And occasionally I will test the waters and see what's happening to mortgage interest rates. And when I click onto one site, within days, I get literally inundated with people, come to us. We've got the lowest price. We've got the lowest fee. And so I'm assuming that either Google or somebody sold my contact information or my interest to somebody else. And that's why everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. But at a point that really irritates me and actually stops me from wanting to do anything. So I think appears to be, at least in the example that I'm using, overkill. Well, if you need 6 to 9 contacts in order to convert a customer, how do you help your customers understand that overkill can really kill their business? Absolutely.
I mean, it's something that's the same exact example as with that hotel room, and it happens all the time, and it's something that it drives negative brand association. So users really just start to get irritated with those advertisements. So it's really important when you're being effective online to understand when to show a user an ad and then when not to. And so our platform is the one that is able to do that, right? If you're working on 8 different channels, but all independently, no one channel, no one ad server can talk to the other and really indicate that, hey, I've already seen Dan, I've already seen Don. Let's not show them any more creative, right? The benefit of working with XPS, which is our internal platform for omni-channel, is that we can actually combine our platform knows when you've been exposed on which channel, and so then we can start aggregating that, and then what's called frequency capping. So we'll know to stop showing. You want to set a frequency cap of 6, which is 6 ads in, let's say, 24 hours. We know that if you've seen the ads 6 times on 5 channels, that still counts as 6. Let's stop showing you any more impressions, because after that point, we're not being effective anymore. We're actually just hurting our brand by forcing more ads on you.
Let me ask you one more question, then I'll turn it over to Don. Right now, of all the channels you have, is there one particular channel that's dominating effectiveness?
It'll really depend on what vertical that the advertiser is in, but mobile has definitely become has been really effective overall with engagement for a few different reasons. But one thing that we're noticing actually is desktop is still remaining very strong. It's actually one of the reasons why we ended up acquiring TrueEngage, incorporating that in, and actually rebuilding that into our omni-channel structure, which is that kind of what, the product that you referenced earlier about helping kind of users with skipping that ad issue that's out there. The pre-roll ads are really common, really effective, but what we've done is we've actually created a custom overlay that allows users to engage with the brand in order to skip the pre-roll and go right to their content. And that's really being done mostly on desktop placements because users are able to engage using their mouse. And it's also one of the destinations now where users who are typically watching broadcast are now either going to connected TV devices like their Apple TV or Roku, as well as desktop and laptop placements. And so with incorporation of TrueEngage, we're actually trying to capture a lot of that effectiveness that we're seeing with desktop and the interest that users are watching all the system content online. We're able to capture those users.
Super. Thank you. Don?
Well, I'll start my question by asking, how does a small business use your product, and what do you ask of a small business?
Absolutely. So a small business can use our product by doing a few different things. One is we need to understand, we'll actually sit with that small business and decision makers and walk through what their campaign objectives are. Right. So one thing that we do that's different than some others that are out there is in our industry, programmatic has become a very big topic, which is very much more of a self-service model. The issue there is that you're running on what's called remnant inventory, which is not premium. It's all kind of the lower end inventory. Users probably aren't even noticing the creative at that point because they've had such a burnout. So we focus on premium inventory only. And we have a managed service so that our actual team will work with the small business to understand what you need to be doing online, within your mobile placements, on connected TV. Do we need to target by content on connected TV? We have an exclusive integration with NBC where we can target on their specific shows and episodes and series. So we are able to do that and help guide those clients into understanding where they're going to be most relevant or how to be most effective online. So it's not just, hey, I've got a bunch of creative, let's throw it up against the wall and see hopefully something sticks there. It's really the understanding the environment that those ads are going to be running in.
Well, following up on that question, what are the three things you ask a potential new client about them, and what are the three questions they should be asking you?
Absolutely. So things that we'll ask, the number one is, what is your campaign objective? What's the goal? Do you want a user to convert, purchase something, engage with your brand? Again, is it more of that upper funnel awareness type of play that you're looking for, or are you looking to really drive some type of action conversion? You want to capture that user's contact information. So understanding that point. The other sides of it are really understanding what type of creative are they working with? Do they have those creative resources? Do we need help with those as well? Because a majority of what we do is focus on the media portion of it. So we have partners that we'll work with that can also help build out, do video production to create a pre-roll ad, or designers to create static banner images. And then, understanding that what their business is about can also help us to understand where those best placements are. You're more of kind of a CPG-based client that, we want to drive online, but also if we have the ability to run in-store type placements or in stadiums, right? If you're Pop Chips and you're selling potato chips, we go that, hey, you're in airports and in stadiums, we can highlight the product in those areas, so that last mile is where users will actually end up converting and purchasing.
I have one more, then I'll turn it back to Dan. I guess in all of the areas, Dan asked the question in terms, what's the most popular? My question is, over the years, what has been the most consistent deliverer to small businesses in this whole social media area?
For social media and small business, I mean, LinkedIn has definitely been probably the biggest piece on that front, where they've been driving a lot of influence. Obviously, small business owners, we all use LinkedIn quite a bit. We look through our feed, and there's a lot of great news stories that come through, updates, posts. So that's really helping influence, I think, a lot of businesses as far as a social media standpoint. But Facebook's always been another one as well. We can't really all get away from Facebook at this point. They're a significant player in the space, one of the big four now. And but LinkedIn, when it comes to specifically small business, is the absolute leader. I mean, they're innovating all the time. They have new technology developments that are coming out, new releases, helping to retarget users, build out user CRM lists. I mean, there's quite a bit that LinkedIn is doing, from a social media perspective, that is really benefiting a lot of small business.
We're speaking with Tom Alexander, the CEO of PK4 Media, talking about trends in multiple distribution through social and electronic media. I want to move to a new subject, and I want to use Don and I as an example. We are currently now on 10 radio stations. We're on the internet. We're on iHeartRadio, and we have 32,000 households that have us on Roku. Is that a coming distribution in your business, or is it floundering? What's going on with Roku?
Roku, is definitely not floundering. Out of all the connected TV devices, Roku boxes have the largest distribution out of anyone, and that's something that, while other devices and other OTT boxes, over-the-top boxes, continue to grow, I think Roku is still going to be there. There's a lot of great distribution that comes from Roku or the apps that are associated with them. Roku, out of actually almost everybody, it's really Roku and Samsung are really taking the lead here with app development and building out their world, and allowing users to engage through their platforms instead of just looking at independent app developers. Roku and Samsung are really taking charge of their own environments.
So the Roku is broadcast in the home over cable.
Yes.
And you say it's the dominant player in that space. And is that a big space for advertising?
It's not as big as, obviously, desktop and mobile tablet type of placements, but it's definitely moving in that direction. Over this past year, we've seen incredible growth in demand for what we call impressions and streams coming from connected TV devices, including Roku. So the demand is definitely rising, especially with a lot of millennials now, with that demographic really growing and becoming cord cutters. Connected TV is obviously a major direction for these users. So that's one of the reasons why we've incorporated into our omni-channel platform. We want to make sure that we understand what that environment's like and how we can be effective there for our brands. There's certain things that connected TV can allow us to do that broadcast can't. The big piece there is addressable TV, and that's kind of been the dream for broadcast forever. But it's very difficult to do based on just kind of a very old broadcast platform. With connected TV, and we can tell you, hey, Dan, you're specifically interested in purchasing a car. Here's a deal at the local Lexus dealership. We're able to call those things out because we can target one-to-one because it's digital to you on your Roku device. And all that comes through with sharing data across, again, all those channels. Knowing that you've shown interest in the Kelly Blue Book and Auto Trader on your desktop or mobile device, we're able to share that data and understand that when you're watching connected TV, that you're also in market to purchase.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for being with us today. Tom is from PK4 Media. Give us the website one more time.
Absolutely. It's at www.pk4media.com.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
And now we have a word from our sponsor, our new sponsor, Ace Hardware.
Dan Perkins here with your Recalculating Small Business Tip of the Day. Have you ever tried to find someone to help you in a big box store? Your time is valuable, and if you have a question, you need someone to give you an answer. Do you find yourself wandering from aisle to aisle trying to find someone to help you? Finding help is a problem in almost every big box store chain, regardless of what they're selling: TVs, clothes, even nuts and bolts. Greater customer service can differentiate a small business from a big box competitor. When customers can't find someone to help them, they take their frustration out on the store. They are angry. A smart small business owner makes it a point to be attentive, helpful, and polite. "May I help you?" are the sweet words of success. Check out recalculating.biz for more useful small business suggestions. This has been Dan Perkins with your Small Business Tip of the Day.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Ace is your neighborhood place for everything Yeti, from coolers to drinkware. And right now, for the first time ever, Yeti is on sale. During the Ace Memorial Day sale, save 25% on Yeti Rambler stainless steel drinkware. It's virtually indestructible and keeps drinks hot or cold for longer. So hurry into your local Ace and save 25% on Yeti stainless steel drinkware. Offer valid for Ace Rewards members only through June 4th. Excludes Duracoat colors and jugs. See participating stores for details.
Welcome back to Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful. Now it's time for Money in Motion. Dan Perkins is our resident expert in making the money you earn work as hard as you do. Here is Dan Perkins.
Welcome back. You know, as more and more small companies embrace the idea of gig economy, risks faced by these small business owners in the gig economy grow. Here to talk today about what they can do to protect themselves is Christy Lucas from the Erie Insurance Company. Thank you for joining us, Christy.
Thanks so much for having me.
And will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and how we can get in contact with you?
So I am Christy Lucas. I have been at Erie Insurance, all in commercial insurance, for 25 years. I started when I was very, very young. We are an East Coast carrier in 12 states on the East Coast, and we write commercial, personal, and life insurance. The best way to reach us or find additional information about Erie Insurance is to go onto our website, which is erieinsurance.com. And at that point in time, you can find out about the products that we insure and also find one of our Erie Insurance agents at that time.
Terrific. Thank you for giving us that information. And do you have a website? Again, is that erieinsurance.com?
Yep,
Super.
Erie Insurance is one word, and it's ERIE. For those of you that are not familiar, it's based on the fact that we are located on Lake Erie in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Right. So a lot of people listening to the show may not understand what gig is. So let's talk a little bit about what it is and why it's important to businesses, small and large.
Right. So these days, a gig worker may identify themselves as a freelancer or a consultant, an independent contractor, and this means that they're earning money as doing things like a rideshare driver, selling goods through a company like eBay, or running a home-based business. So rather than taking on a full-time job as the only way to earn money, the gig economy is a booming new job market, and it's characterized by workers who, as I mentioned, take on the short-term contracts as a freelancer or work for themselves out of their own home. This allows them to set their own schedules and experience a more flexible career path, which many of the younger generation enjoys.
You know, interesting concept, because when I left Wall Street and started my own small business, I was looking for those short contracts to do certain things, consulting. And I had a couple of those relationships that turned into 22-year relationships before we retired. So sometimes the gig engagement can actually lead to if you want it full-time employment. Even though you're not an employee of the company, your company can be employed by another company for many hours a week.
That is true, and it's not to say always that the gig workers that is their full-time job. Many times these days they may have a full-time job and also do some of the gig work experience as a part-time job to earn additional money also.
Right. So would you consider an Uber driver a gig employment?
We would. Yes, we would.
Okay.
So,
and go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
So definitely, because they normally will set their own hours and they can contract on as a ride-by-ride basis. So they definitely are considered part of the gig economy.
Okay, so if we take, now we're going to talk about your company, Erie Insurance. What do you do for that entrepreneur who is in gig employment? And what is important from an insurance standpoint for that gig employee or employer, which is the same, to be concerned about when they think about their insurance needs?
Sure. Well, probably the best place to start is maybe the Uber driver, since we have been talking about it. So if you drive for a ride-sharing service like Uber or Lyft, you may be covered for liability by the ride-sharing provider on a limited basis, with definitely more coverage being provided when someone is in your vehicle than when they're not. But Erie wants to make sure that your drivers are covered on every part of their trip. That's why we were the very first major carrier to offer coverage for ride-sharing drivers on a full-time basis, because we saw the need for this economy.
So when let's move away from the Uber driver and let's talk about a person who might be consulting for another company, marketing ideas, accounting, whatever. What are the bare bones minimum that person should think they should have in insurance coverages if they're going to be independent?
So it depends on how deep they are in the exposures they have, but at the very bare minimum, they should add an incidental business endorsement to their homeowner's policy. So if you can imagine, well, if you're hosting someone at your home as a client or that sort of thing, and they get injured, you want your homeowners to pick up the coverage for that, which normally without an incidental homeowners or business endorsement, it would not come. Or if you're out visiting a client and for some reason you break their antique vase, something like that, that's where your coverage would kick in.
So the first place I'm sorry, I just want to follow what you're saying. So the first thing is you might want to consider adding a rider to your homeowner's policy that covers for what? Liability? Loss? What?
It covers for liability, but it also will give you property coverage also, things like accounts receivable, valuable papers. It gives limited coverage for that also. If you have an inventory, it will give you an amount of coverage for your inventory that perhaps you hold on premises until you sell it, things like that, that if it was damaged, it wouldn't be considered personal property, it's business property, so your incidental business endorsement would pick that up.
So one more time, what is the rider called?
It varies by company to company, but it's usually called an incidental business endorsement. And that basically means that the main business of your house or the building is actually a home, but you do have some sort of a small side business also operating out of it.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that you're specializing, or a portion of your company specializes in working with contract employees?
We do. So, and that what we've talked about with the incidental business endorsement are kind of your Tupperware consultants, your Sensi, things like that are just selling out of their house. If you have a true business exposure, we also then sell commercial lines where you can get a business owner's policy. But definitely what you want to do is talk to your insurance agent to analyze what your exposures are to see if the incidental business endorsement is enough for you, because obviously it is the most inexpensive. There's different kinds, but generally speaking, they run about $30 to $70 a year. So definitely well worth the added coverage and the peace of mind to protect the business that you've worked so hard. But if for some reason you do have a specific product exposure, or if you go to trade shows where they require some sort of a business policy, Erie Insurance also sells those also.
And what kind of premium would we expect to pay on those?
Usually they're somewhere between $200 or $300 for a small business owner's policy, and that you definitely would get contents coverage. You can insure your building, office, things like that.
Okay, Don?
I have several questions. I'd like to back up a little bit, Christy, and I know that insurance is always a complicated process. But if I heard you right, your company provides insurance not only for the gig employer, but the gig employee. Am I right in that or not?
That is absolutely correct. We write a full range of commercial products, and also we have a personal lines product also that would help our small businesses in the gig economy.
Okay, let me go over to the employer side first because I have several questions on that. And having been involved with that, our base organization has been a virtual organization for almost 20 years now, and this has come up. As an employer, let us say, which I do, I employ a contract worker to be my head of my ISP operations, my webmaster. How do what kind of a policy can I write to help me protect not only against what he does against me, but if someone comes in, for instance, and swipes our email list and things like that? Do you have a policy that deals with that?
We do. So definitely if you have an employee, in most states you are required to carry workers' compensation, and Erie Insurance does sell that. So that would be the first thing that we would recommend to you. But also we have a vast line of liability insurance. We also sell professional liability if you would make an error or omission to a customer and get sued for that. We also, as you mentioned, if you would lose some of your customers' personally identifiable information, we would cover that under our data breach coverage, because in the majority of states you are required to notify individuals that you have breached either their personally identifiable information, their credit card information, their medical information, things like that. And to your last point, we also will offer employee dishonesty coverage for employees that either steal your business personal property or money, securities, things like that from you.
Well, I know you provide it, but also let's turn it around. Do you also recommend that for small businesses in general?
So definitely if you have an employee and you have a freestanding office, things like that, you definitely want a commercial business owner's policy. And the nice thing is that many carriers, including Erie Insurance, tailor makes coverage specific to certain different lines of business. So we have an endorsement for a consultant that packages all kinds of offices coverages into one, so you don't necessarily need to pick and choose. We would automatically give you some data breach coverage, some employee dishonesty, some computer coverage, and we would bundle that together in one endorsement to make it very easy for you to purchase it. And plus, by bundling them together, it makes it a lot cheaper for you.
But like many companies, we are virtual. Our webmasters in Oregon, our sales force is in northern New Jersey. Our main facilities are in the cloud. How does one go about, as a small business, kind of pulling all this together and talking to someone like you and figuring out their insurance needs?
So definitely you need to get an insurance agent. They have many years of experience and are trained in identifying exposures and matching up the right insurance program with the client's needs. So definitely an insurance agent is your first contact that you should go to.
Okay. Now let's turn this around and talk about the employee. What should he and she carry as insurance? Well, I know we talked about Lyft, but there's also many new organizations, and you can hire now somebody to do your shopping for you, somebody to walk your dog, etc. What should someone like that? What types of insurance should they have?
So they normally will most likely definitely require some liability insurance, both when their customers are on their own premises, if they have some sort of an office or anything, or when they go out into other people's premises, they need some sort of liability to protect against that. Either someone gets injured on my premises or I damage something of someone else's. And that is always included in the incidental business endorsement or any commercial policy. So the liability is the most important. And then a step up from that, you can build, you can choose to say, I have quite a bit of property or I have a computer that I need to insure. And normally you can bundle coverage again in that incidental business endorsement to provide for that. And in addition to that, you just keep going. I need the data breach, employee dishonesty, and that's where your insurance agent will help you.
Christy, I just an email just came across the desk on a specific instance. What does one happen when who's responsible when a dog walker, when a dog that she, in this case she was walking, bites somebody? Who's responsible?
So I believe it varies by state. Different states have different regulations and statutes as to who is responsible. But the nice thing about insurance is even if you're not responsible or liable for it, the nice thing is that insurance covers for the defense of it. So even if you are sued erroneously, it has defense costs in there that will defend you that it wasn't your fault or nothing that you did contributed to the liability.
So we're talking with Christy Lewis from Erie Insurance. Christy, tell us again where you said you conduct business.
We are mostly on the East Coast, in Pennsylvania, New York. We're in a 12-state and District of Columbia, but we are based in Pennsylvania. So
you don't go down to the Carolinas or Georgia or Florida?
As far down south as we go is North Carolina, and we are over to the west in Illinois and Wisconsin. Would you consider yourself a specialty insurer? No, our main business is obviously personalized. That's the vast majority, and then we are a Main Street insurer, which is your mom and pop type store. So we are definitely in the small to middle commercial market. So the gig economy is right where we have our expertise. Okay. So are you, the agents that you would be using would be independent agents? They are independent agents, but Erie has a very unique independent agency force where they are very loyal to Erie, and we spend a lot of time handpicking our agents. So they, the majority of the business that they sell is with Erie Insurance. So if a particular person who's in the insurance business is an independent insurance person and he's not doing this gig business and he falls within your footprint as far as where you can write business, then could they contact you or your company and talk about the possibility of working together? Absolutely, absolutely. Our niche, we write lots of auto repair shops, restaurants, machine shops, tool and die shops, and just your general accountants, beauty shops, things like that. So we write a lot more than the gig economy, and that's where Erie's main footprint has started. But the gig economy is something that Erie Insurance believes that we need to keep up with the trends of the industry and something that we have branched into. So let's take that last comment and expand on it a little bit.
What is you and your company thinking about the expansion of the gig opportunity?
So the biggest expansion is the amount of limits that people could have, because liability doesn't change, and it's not even just about having the right kind of insurance. A lot of times it's having enough insurance. So if you can imagine, if you have business personal property loss of $100,000, but your incidental business endorsement only provides $10,000 of coverage, even though you had that coverage, the policyholder is going to be very disappointed at a loss. So we try and match not only the right coverages, but to make sure that you have the right amount of coverages. And that starts out kind of, you talked about when you started out very small, maybe that $10,000 was enough for you, or $100,000 in liability limits. But as you got bigger, Erie Insurance grows with you and builds your business out as you build it also.
Okay, so let me follow that with another question. As a segment of your business, the gig economy, what are your expectations of the number of people or opportunities? Is this particular part of our economy going to grow, or as the economy begins to expand and employers are looking for full-time people, will the opportunities for gig employment diminish? What do you think?
It's my prediction, but nowadays more and more Americans are becoming part of this employment shift. In fact, an article on Career Builder survey, 29% of workers have some sort of a side gig, especially the millennial generation. In fact, 44% of 25 to 34-year-olds and 39% of those between 18 and 24 reported having some sort of a side gig. So all signs are pointing this to be a growing trend that's going to continue for quite a few years.
Do you think, excuse me, got a little frog in my throat. Do you sell frog insurance, by the way?
We do not. We are not in the pet insurance yet.
Okay, all right. Interesting, this phenomenon of gig. As the economy grows, corporations will still want to continue to use gigs, but they also want to expand their company. With more and more people gravitating to a gig assignment, do you think that businesses may find qualified people harder and harder to find?
So the nice thing, I'm not sure if they'll find it harder and harder to find because, again, as you mentioned, you're not tied to hiring employees in your own state any longer. So now you can have your salesman in San Francisco, your office admin person in Erie, Pennsylvania. So I don't know that there'll be a lack of people, but it might be just a different way of working, in my opinion.
Are you a public company?
We are.
And what's your symbol?
From AM Best, we are an A+ carrier.
And your stock exchange symbol?
I'm not familiar on that side of the business. I apologize, but we certainly can find that out for you.
No, that's all right.
You don't have to, Christy. You're amazingly a knowledgeable woman. Can I jump in, Dan, and ask another question? Besides the gig economy, the stay-at-home or how do you say it, out-of-office participant is growing as well. Do you also cover for people who don't come into the office and work from home or from another location?
We definitely do, both for workers' compensation. We provide coverage for workers wherever they work, if it's their home, if they are sitting at Panera, doing some office work, that sort of thing. So it follows them wherever they work. And that goes for workers' comp and liability coverage.
Can I just follow that with another follow-up question, Don?
Yes. No.
I've been thinking about, as you've been talking about this, when I started my business, I literally incorporated as a limited liability company and did all those things that you have to do. But I was a single employee. if I have a single employee business, should I have workman's compensation on my own?
So again, it varies by state, but in most, if you're a sole proprietor, you're not required to. You can opt in or opt out in most states, but it does vary by state.
Well,
and we
Christy,
would always recommend that you opt in.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
Well, Dan just moved from New Jersey to Florida. In New Jersey, you're required, even if you're a single employer or no employer, to have workman's compensation. And the state bangs you for $350 minimum for that. So,
right.
Per employee.
Then there's some states like Tennessee where it allows you to have one or two employees and you still don't have workers' comp. So it does vary by state as to what the workers' comp statutes are.
Okay, so let's move on. What in your working with gig employees or gig entrepreneurs, what do you think is the thing that they most overlook?
I think the majority of them believe that since their business is out of their home, that their homeowner's insurance will cover them. And that is normally not true because it usually excludes any business operations. So that's why it's really, really important to have some sort of business insurance to go along with your homeowner's policy.
So then the follow-up question, Christy, is that some people feel is that if you're an independent contractor or a gig employee and you have your own business structure and you have a corporation and you are an employee of the corporation, that corporate veil protects you against personal liability. True?
So that's a great legal question because in most circumstances it should, but I always hate to say always. But that is the reason why most people do incorporate. And the difference in your entity, whether you're an LLC, a corporation, a partnership, or an individual, also dictates the type of insurance that you would buy. Because if you're a corporation or an LLC or a partnership, you cannot have business insurance on your homeowner's policy. So you are forced to go to a commercial lines and get a business owner's policy.
Okay.
So definitely your structure of your business also plays into exactly what type of policy you should purchase.
That's a good tip. It's a good tip. Thank you for that.
Could I ask one? What about health insurance and the gig? I'm sure you don't get into it, but are there any policies for that that an employer can use to mitigate, say against accident, et cetera?
So most, just like any other employer, they always have the ability to purchase health insurance for themselves and their employees. Now, Erie Insurance doesn't sell health insurance, but it is available through other companies. And the same with life. Another thing, if you are the main breadwinner and you have a gig policy, many companies will provide their employees life insurance, but if you're the sole employee of your company, you definitely want to provide your family with that security by buying a life insurance policy on yourself in case, God forbid, something happened to you. So as a sole owner of a business, that's another thing that you need to think about to give that peace of mind to your family.
I have a limited liability company, Christy.
Yep.
The insurance company can the insurance policy be paid for by the company?
Definitely. Yep. Yes.
So that it becomes the premium is a tax-deductible expense against corporate income?
Yes.
Super. Yep. Well, Christy, we're out of time, but you've been a wonderful guest and very informative. We've been speaking with Christy Lucas from Erie Insurance. And Christy, give us the website one more time.
It's at www.erieinsurance, one word, ERIEINSURANCE.com. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And now it's time for, I guess, commercial or tip of the day, Don?
We'll go for a commercial first because that's what's paying the bills.
Okay.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Ace is your neighborhood place for everything Yeti, from coolers to drinkware. And right now, for the first time ever, Yeti is on sale. During the Ace Memorial Day sale, save 25% on Yeti Rambler stainless steel drinkware. It's virtually indestructible and keeps drinks hot or cold for longer. So hurry into your local Ace and save 25% on Yeti stainless steel drinkware. Offer valid for Ace Rewards members only through June 4th. Excludes Duracoat colors and jugs. See participating stores for details.
Hate your old fax machine? You can now fax through email. Simply write an email, attach the document, and send. Works with all major email providers. Get rid of the noisy and expensive old fax machine and try Biscom's Cloud Fax. Our solutions are great for businesses of all sizes. Visit Biscom.com for your free trial. That's BISCOM.com.
Dan, to give you our thoughts on today's guest, in particular, your thoughts on the Chamber of Commerce study.
Well, I'll go and look at it more in detail, but it's something that it's part of the rationale why we started recalculating, that we thought that under Mr. Trump there was going to be a resurgence in small business and optimism for small business opportunities. And what the Chamber is telling us is that what we thought about some months ago as a possibility of happening seems to be happening. And I guess we guessed right, Don.
Well, let's hope so. And let's hope we got our first numbers, Dan, and happy to report, as you indicated, we're in the top 20% of the 24/7 network in terms of reader listenership, and right. That after a little under 2 months. It's evident that some of our listeners like what they're hearing, but if they have some thoughts or ideas, we'd love to hear them at editor@recalculating.biz. That's editor@recalculating.biz. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love also to arrange so that you could talk with us during the show. So we're going to start thinking about doing that the next couple of weeks, but we'd like to hear your thoughts on the subject. So any final thoughts, Dan?
Nope, I'm done for the day. We'll see him next week.
Dan Perkins here from recalculating.biz with your small business tip of the day. Do you have trouble sleeping on a road trip? I travel a great deal and spend many nights in hotels. I just finished a long road trip and the pillows were terrible. They were so bad I had to go to my chiropractor when I got home. She told me when she travels, she takes her favorite pillow with her. It's really hard to function effectively if you can't get a good night's sleep. And if you put several sleepless nights together, you could be at serious risk, especially if you're driving a car. So here's your recalculating.biz tip of the day. How do you find the right pillow? Start with the one you have at home. If you like it, then go buy one and make it your travel pillow. If you find one at a hotel, then write down as much information as you can on the tags. Look for travel pillows. These are smaller versions of larger ones, and they might work for you. If you're going to take a pillow, put it in a bright pillowcase. That way it will stand out, and you won't forget to take it home. For recalculating.biz, this has been Dan Perkins with your tip of the day. Dan Perkins here with your Recalculating Small Business tip of the day. How important is paint to a painter? Current estimates are that America has 450,000 house painters, and almost all of them are small businesses. The cost of paint is going up, so paint is a large expense for the painting contractor. The cost of the paint can be as much as 15% of the price of the job. Skimping on the paint may cost you in the long run. Using a lower quality paint may make your price more competitive, but the client may not like the results a year or two down the road, and that could cost you more than you think. Like many things, you can buy lower quality paint that doesn't hold up, but the lower price could cost you a referral and could damage your reputation. So if you're a house painter, think about spending a little more on the paint you buy. You will grow your business, your reputation, and spread joy all around the house. Check out recalculating.biz for more useful small business suggestions. This has been Dan Perkins with your small business tip of the day.
Welcome back to Recalculating, the program dedicated to American small business. Now it's time to bring together our two experts, Dan Perkins and Don Mazzella, as they discuss things that are happening now that are affecting your business success. Thank you for joining us on Recalculating. We hope the information you received on today's episode was helpful to you in starting and growing your business. Please go to our website, recalculating.biz, to contact us, to listen to past shows, and see special offers. Until next time, remember, if you grow, we grow. Join us next week for more helpful ideas to make your business a great success.